What I did without choice.
I know.
In the name of honesty and personal opinion.
But not in the name of the fan consensus.
There have been times where you have disagreed with the fan consensus before. What makes this time any different?
You know what? You're right. I never really considered that. Then again, why would I? I'm a bit of a rogue after all. Right then, I'll see you in November then.
Okay, I'll see you in November.
Bye.
I just can't resist.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my review of Doctor Who, Series 7, Episode 13, The Name of the Doctor, the series finale of Series 7 of Doctor Who, or Season 33. Okay, this one's a big one. It's only a single part finale, like the last series, but this is quite an epic finale. There are a few issues I do have with it, but I'll get to that later. But the story is absolutely brilliant, in my opinion. I know not everyone's going to agree with that, but I think this is a brilliant story. The plot of this story sees these Whispermen creatures working for the Great Intelligence find this murderer guy in Victorian London, 1893, so not long after the Crimson Horror, and they start to torment his dreams. But they provide him with information to pass on to Madame Vastra about the Doctor and Trenzalore in order to save his own life, albeit in fear of the Whispermen, as the prologue. Actually, this one might even be a prequel. The prequel Clarence and the Whispermen shows. But I say prequel because this one might actually be a prequel coming out after the episode's broadcast. Anyway, so Clarence passes on the information to Madame Vastra, who then sets up a conference call with her, Jenny, Strax, Clara, and River Song. Being a crossing time and space, this is more of a dream-like cross meeting as opposed to everyone coming to the same place. It's more like in a dream. Think of it basically like the tea room from Aimless Wanderings audios, where they can just pop in and they don't have to damage reality just by being there. Actually, that's a completely different thing. What am I saying? But basically, Jenny and Strax set up this table and then they set up the dream for their call. However, Jenny has not locked the door and the Whispermen can easily get in. Strax is up in Glasgow, so he has to be knocked out by his good friend Archie to take part. Clara has been sent a letter. Somehow Vastra can send letters through time and space to get to her on a specific day, and there is a candle that she has to light to join the conference. However, Vastra suspects Clara will not have any reason to trust it, so she actually puts the dust inside the letter, which is actually quite funny. I think that's a funny bit, that Clara is suspicious of the lighter, so she doesn't join in, but the letter's got the stuff on it anyway, so she's joining in anyway. And then River Song pops in. However, this is River Song post Science and Library Forest of the Dead. This is the library, the subconscious in the library database that we saw in that story at the end of that one. So this is this would be in River Song's timeline. This is her last chronological appearance on screen in terms of River Song's chronological timeline. Although River Song herself still has one more episode of the show left to be shown on television. There is one more River Song episode left. Not to mention the minisode that's on the Series 7 DVD and Blu-ray. Whether that came out, I think that one came out after this episode as well. Clarence's information is that the Doctor has a secret that he will take to his grave, and it is discovered, and also coordinates to the planet Trenzalore. However, River realizes that Clarence meant the Doctor's grave has been discovered, not his secret. Something that the Doctor says later on that, but by the looks of it, River also worked it out that they misunderstood, and then the Doctor more or less confirms it a few minutes later. However, the Whispermen get in, and for some reason they just decide to kill Jenny. Yeah, that's one of my issues with this episode. They just kill Jenny off for literally no reason. I can understand them invading the house, but and coming on and attacking the Paternoster gang. But why did they kill Jenny? What was the point? And then they revive her later on. Strax manages to revive her with one of his gadgets, as he is a nurse. So what was the point? And she, when the spoiler alert, when the Great Intelligence goes into the Doctor's timeline, she gets erased from history anyway. So she gets killed twice. Why? And the whole thing about death in this series is being kind of screwed a bit. Aren't you screwing with it a bit, Stephen Moffat? I mean, I know it's a scary concept, but you don't have to kill someone just to bring them back if you don't need to. It was fine with the being erased from history bit, because that was important to the story, but this is unnecessary, and actually makes that second one actually less impactful now. Well done. Anyway, so the Whispermen and the Great Intelligence hijack the call, and Clara just somehow wakes up and tells the Doctor. So the Doctor and Clara then decide to go to Trenzalore to rescue the Paternoster gang. Meanwhile, the Great Intelligence and the Whispermen have already found them. And River guides Clara across Trenzalore, so to speak. She's talking with her a bit sometimes, but the Doctor doesn't see her. Or does he? He accidentally slipped that she's his wife when they're talking about her at one point, when they find what is supposedly her grave, but it's not her real grave because she died at the library. Instead, it's a trapdoor to the TARDIS, which is where the Doctor is buried on Trenzalore. And it's growing bigger because it's leaking the bigger on the inside energy to the outside now. Another issue I do have this episode is that Clara just remembers stuff from Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS. Not so much because it's remembering a previous episode, it's just remembering that episode. I don't know if it is that necessary. Only necessary so that Clara remembers that the Doctor has met two versions of her before, which ties into what happens in this story. Anyway, they confront the Great Intelligence. River lets them in so that Vastra, Jenny, Strax, and Clara don't get their heart stopped. Oh yeah, Jenny gets her heart stopped almost. Stop it, Stephen. You only need to kill a character once. And then they go inside, and the Doctor explains that it's, instead of a body, it's this time stream, which the Great Intelligence then goes inside to try and corrupt the Doctor's time stream so that he will die all at once and lose all his victories, etc. He's basically just going to screw with the Doctor's life. So Clara then decides to jump in and save the Doctor at every moment she possibly can. And it's revealed that's how she could be at the Dalek Asylum as Oswin Oswald, and Victorian Clara in The Snowmen, Clara Oswin Oswald. So that's how this mystery is resolved. It turns out Clara jumped into the Doctor's timeline and had many different splinter versions of Clara. And at the start and towards the end, we see her meeting with the first 10 Doctors as well, in places, using archive footage for Doctors 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7, and new body stand-ins for Doctors 6, 8, 9, 10, and also a little bit for, I think, 1 and 4 in towards the end as well. It's actually pretty nice seeing all of the Doctors make appearances in the episode, although in context it's not all makes sense. and mostly Clara's just shouting Doctor half the time and not really helping out, apart from the two that the 11th Doctor remembered. One other splinter of Clara, by the way, will also help out the 12th Doctor in a Doctor Who magazine comic, and real Clara will interact with her. That was actually a pretty good comic. That also referenced the 10th planet as well, as they went to the location of that story. But that's a Doctor Who magazine comic. So that's not really too relevant, but it's actually pretty interesting to know that a splinter of Clara would then help the 12th Doctor, which is after the events of this story, instead of a case before this story with the first 11. With the exception of one Doctor, there's one Doctor she does not help. She questions who they are at the very end. More on that later. Eventually, Clara is able to save the Doctor, and then the Doctor, after one final talk with River Song, which was a brilliant talk. If this was indeed River's last episode, that would have been a great way to wrap it up. I think her actual last episode is also a pretty great way to wrap up her story with the 12th Doctor when we come to that one. But this is a nice way to wrap up the story. And after a more younger and flirtatious River from Series 6 and Part 2 and The Angels Take Manhattan, although that Angels Take Manhattan one is after, in her timeline after her Series 5 story, so bit odd, but I'll forgive it. But it seems like this River has definitely gone back to her more mature and more wiser personality from Science and Library, Forest of the Dead. Yeah, there's the whole stuff about the Doctor doesn't like endings from Angels Take Manhattan here, but that ties in with the characters from Angels, so I'll be okay with it. I just prefer the personality of the character here in this story to what she was earlier in the series. It definitely shows the character has matured a little bit since then. In fact, both characters seem to have matured a little bit since the last time they've met, or at least in our perspectives. So, yeah, that final conversation scene, that was really great. And then, so the Doctor then jumps in and saves Clara, and I mentioned this back at Rings of Akaten. He returns her leaf to her, and I was happy to see that when I first saw this episode, because I felt sorry for Clara when she lost that leaf, because it was so important to her. It's what got her parents to meet, and it was important that was page one of the book, because that was page one of Clara's life, more or less. It was so important to her that I felt sorry for it being taken away from her in that episode. And now it's come back, so I'm happy for that it's come back to Clara. In fact, I think Clara's pretty decent in this episode. I mean, she hasn't got the biggest personality, but, it's better than some of the previous couple of episodes. It's probably her best since Hyde as a character, and also Jenna Coleman's best performance since probably Cold War. So, yeah, I think Clara's gone up a little bit here than she was in the previous couple of episodes, but we're still kind of at a low point for the character development. But I was still happy to see her leaf back. And then she's rescued by the Doctor, and then presumably we don't really see it, but they escape from the Doctor's time stream, and they go off, and she somehow gets a job at Coal Hill School. She dumps Angie and Artie to go work with other kids. Well, after last episode, I don't really blame her. But they're actually okay in this episode. In their one scene that they get, they're okay. It's a shame that they don't actually do much, because it was set up at the end of Crimson Horror that they were going to be occasional supporting characters. But as this is only 8 episodes of the series with Clara, and they brought that in right around what would have been episode 6, and then they've got 5 less episodes of the series to use them, so they're just junked. They're junked after this one. Clara works at Coal Hill School, and then they're pretty much forgotten about. The better than Courtney Wood, though, I'll give them that. But yeah, so Angie and Artie don't do an awful lot here, so they're pointless. I mean, I don't mind them as background characters in the first episode, or if they were going to be more important in other episodes, but what we did get with them did make them kind of pointless. Into Better Pastures, Richard E. Grant gives a much better performance here than he did in The Snowmen. He gives a bit more of an emotional edge, possibly because he's playing a different character, the Great Intelligence this time around, using Dr. Simeon's body, as opposed to Simeon himself. So Richard E. Grant's allowed to put a bit more emotion into this performance. He does a pretty good job here. And the Whispermen, they're not the best monsters, but they're an interesting creature that they serve as not really the physical body of Simeon, but the physical. It's not Simeon, the Great Intelligence, but the physical representation. And if he removed one, then he could always take the form of the other one, and they do a decent job. Then I still think the Yeti are the Great Intelligence's best monsters. He uses for his plans, but these guys aren't too bad. They're better than the bloody snowmen. They hardly did anything. These guys, these are alright. Spoonheads might have been the next best ones because they actually did something pretty unique. But the Whispermen are pretty interesting. So I'll give them a good grade for villains. Vastra, Jenny, Strax. Vastra's great. Jenny's good, apart from when she gets killed off half the time. And Strax, I think this is his weakest stuff. Here or Deep Breath, we'll see when we get to the episode. But I think this is definitely Strax's weakest in terms of with his stories. He keeps saying stuff and making jokes and stuff that just feel a bit out of place in this episode, which is a shame because he was so good in the last one. Even though he didn't get an awful lot of screen time there, but he was really fun in Crimson Horror, and he was pretty good in The Snowmen as well, when Good Man Goes to War, obviously. But this time around, he feels like he's taken a couple of steps back. He's not annoying, but he's just saying stuff just to try to be funny. No wonder Vastra's getting a bit annoyed. But Vastra herself is pretty good. The actors all do great jobs as usual. I liked River Song's moments in this one, as I've mentioned. I think she's much better here than in Angels Take Manhattan, and Alex Kingston does a great job too. And Matt Smith, as per usual, delivers an outstanding performance as the Doctor. Really buy the emotion when he's actually breaking down in Clara's house when he discovers that his Trenzalore has been discovered and that his friends have been kidnapped there. I really believe he's scared and upset about the discovery of Trenzalore and the kidnapping of his friends. Matt Smith just nails it. And this episode looks really good. Saul Metzstein directs this episode. He's directed 5 episodes of this series, including The Snowmen, and they've all looked great. The stories themselves vary with quality, depending on the ones which story we're talking about. He directed the Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, A Town Called Mercy, The Snowmen, The Crimson Horror. Actually, I think he did The Crimson Horror before The Snowmen. They filmed The Snowmen, and, of course, The Name of the Doctor. And he does a great job in directing this episode. This is how you direct an episode. Unlike the guy who directed Nightmare in Silver, where it just felt it was so much in a rush to get over and done with. And I think part of that was due to the execution as well as the script. It was just so much in a hurry. But Saul Metzstein, he takes his time with the story. He's able to not pad it. It flows nicely. It flows. It doesn't try to rush the ending. It doesn't try to rush the middle. It doesn't try to rush the start. It's going nicely. It's fine. This is building up. This is a single part finale, so it's building up nicely throughout the episode until we get to that climax. And I think it works really well. I also like the editing of Clara being interjected into parts of the Doctor's life, although, like I said, it is just her just shouting Doctor or saying Doctor half the time and not really contributing much to actually helping the Doctors. One point is her smacking a window of a door while the 7th Doctor, Sylvester McCoy, is dangling from that bloody cliff face from bloody Dragonfire. Clara didn't rescue him then. That would have saved that cliffhanger. No, it wouldn't, but it would have made it better. And another bit is when she's just on top of glass watching Peter Davison being tortured by Omega in Arc of Infinity. And there's 2 separate occasions of the 5 Doctors for the 2nd and 3rd. The most impactful she has outside the 11th Doctor stuff is telling the 1st Doctor to take another TARDIS than the one he and Susan are going into. That was a nice bit, the very opening of the 1st Doctor and Susan stealing a TARDIS, reusing footage from the Aztecs and audio from the Web Planet. There's also a bit from the Invasion of Time where both the Great Intelligence and Clara are there, and it looks like there's some green screen at the back there for some reason. I can't quite remember if that was actually in the Invasion of Time, if that was just a green wall, or if that was included for for this story. In which case, they forgot to, if that was for this story, they forgot to put something there, maybe a extended corridor or something. It looks more like it's from this episode rather than Invasion of Time, because it's got one of the old 11th Doctor TARDIS lamp things that were next to the staircase by the side as a prop. But still, it's a interesting way to explain Clara being in all these places at once, and it's pretty interesting. And I mean, yeah, maybe if people are going to be pissed off that Clara jumping into the Doctor's timeline means that she's the one who saves him all the time, but it's pretty interesting. I mean, if it, I suppose the fact it's all the time, all the Doctor's victories up to this point, that is probably what's the why some people will be annoyed at that. But as to explain the previous two appearances of the series, as well as to save the Doctor from the Great Intelligence here, then it makes sense. And it's the 50th anniversary year. It's 6 months away to the 50th anniversary. Well, just over. So of course we're going to be doing a lot of classic and old and new series story references. Of course we're going to be highlighting the past. Of course we're going to be celebrating it in some way. It's just the start of that. Not to mention all the references throughout the series to previous classic and old and new series stories. But this is the start of the 50th anniversary celebration. Starting from here, the party begins, people. The party for the 50th anniversary party begins with this episode. It's the start of the Doctor trilogy, or chronology if you count the Night of the Doctor, and it's the start of the 50th anniversary celebrations, which gets into high gear in 6 months' time from this episode's broadcast. And, it works. I think it works. Yeah, it might be a bit annoying that she saves so many Doctors at so many points in time, but fair enough. I think it works fine. So overall, The Night of the Doctor. I think this is a well-put story. Well-put story in both script and editing. Great performances, characters, and there could have been a bit more work on some of them, but others are pretty great. And it's a nice final story of the series. Yeah, it doesn't tie in too much of the overall. Well, actually, this one is the most connected to the 11th Doctor's overall story arc. Out of this series, 7 episodes, out of all of them, this is the most connected. It ties in with that nicely, and it sets up what could happen later down the line as well. It is a shame we didn't get more of it in this series, because this ended up being the 11th Doctor's final series, as Matt Smith decided to step down from the role on the 1st of June 2013, only deciding to do one Christmas special before leaving. And yeah, it is I think that is on Matt Smith, that he decided to leave one series early. I think if he had done series 8 or a few more episodes, maybe a mini series to wrap up the arc, then that would have been great. But sadly, he stepped down and only decided to do the Christmas special after doing the Day of the Doctor, the 50th anniversary special, which was a shame. So we have to wrap up the story arc in one episode after the 50th, which then falls down to Stephen Moffat, and we'll talk about that next time. So yeah, so it is a bit of a shame that Matt Smith decided to step down early. I think he should have done it. Maybe if he decided to do one more series and that would be it. If he announced that he was doing one last series and then he was stepping down, that I think he should have done that. And it was a real blow at the time. But that's a few weeks after this episode broadcast, so at this time we still thought he was the current Doctor. So we were probably waiting to see what Series 8 would do with him, and then he decided to step down, which was a shame. Still, this is a great series finale to Series 7. I know some people might not be agreeing with me on that, but I think this is a great finale. I think it's a really great episode. Some things could have been improved, but I think, yeah, it ends the series well. It ends it on a pretty good note, and I like how it wraps up the Clara stuff in this story. And now, after that's done, maybe Clara can become a bit more of have a bit more personality. Maybe now that the stock character's been played, maybe we can develop her a bit more. Maybe. Hold on a second. Was there something else you wanted me to talk about? A certain ending? Oh yes, there's one more scene I have to talk about before we finish this review. So, when the Doctor is rescuing Clara from the time stream, they both notice this other person in the time stream. Apparently he's another Doctor, but he's not one of the first 10 nor the 11th Doctor. And that's the only people here. Clara has seen all of the other Doctors, all 11 of them, and then there's this other guy. But there's only the Doctor here, besides Clara herself. And the Doctor reveals that he is in fact he is him, but he's not called the Doctor. He is his secret, and it's revealed that this is a secret incarnation of the Doctor, who is then revealed to be called the War Doctor, played by John Hurt. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. A secret Doctor. And this was at the time where we can, unlike now, 2020, this was at a time where we could inject a secret Doctor between the 8th and ninth Doctors. There was a gap. There was a gap, and especially as we didn't really see the 8th Doctor regenerate into the ninth, there was a gap. This Doctor came around because Stephen Moffat couldn't imagine the 8th Doctor nor the ninth Doctor destroying Gallifrey, plus Christopher Eccleston declined to return for the 50th anniversary. So, because he couldn't see either of the 8th or ninth Doctors destroying Gallifrey, he created his own Doctor to go between them, a Doctor who did not call himself the Doctor, and his following three successors also did not refer to him as the Doctor and kept him as a secret incarnation until the events of the 50th anniversary. More on that next time. And it is, of course, the War Doctor, played by the late, great Sir John Hurt. How's this gonna play for the Doctors? So the name of the Doctor, I think this is a great episode. A bit underrated. Yeah, it's flawed, but it's still great. I shall be giving this story a 9 out of 10. I think it just gets a 9 above an 8 because it was really well put together by director Saul Metzstein, and the actors are definitely enthralled in it. And also, it's a nice start to the 50th anniversary celebrations. And I don't think the niggles are too problematic. I think, or at least not so much more than, or in some of them cases, not so much more than some of the previous episodes anyway. Crimson Horror had some of these niggles, and that was a 10 out of 10. However, it's not entirely perfect. It's not as good as the Pandoric Opens The Big Bang, Bad Wolf, Barton Ways, heck, even the other three Russell T Davies era finales. I think this would be, at time, out of the first 7 series finales, this would probably be my number 6th or number 5th at most, at least. No, I would say it's number 6. It's 6th out of 7 at the moment. Although I do think it's better than the next 2 series finales and the 2 13th Doctor ones. But I think there will be definitely one more that's going to be better than this. So it probably will enter the bottom half. Possibly. Yeah, we'll see when. I might make a final decision after seeing the next series finale, Series 8. But I expect this one will be higher than that, in my opinion. And I think it's going to be higher than. It's definitely going to be higher than Series 9s. And also it'll be higher than 11 and 12s. But not 10s. So yeah, that's it from Doctor Who Series 7. That was a great finale with the name of the Doctor. And we wrap up this series on a pretty good note. And you know, Series 7, Season 33, it's been a bit of a mixed bag. I'm not going to say it's outright bad or weak like many other fans would, but it has been a rocky road. This is probably the rockiest series so far of the revived series, and the most turbulent since Season 24. Because there's been a lot of highs, but there's also been a lot of lows. Maybe more of the latter than the former, which is a real shame. There's been some decent stuff here, but there's also been some pretty shit stuff. I might talk about this more in the ranking in a bit, but with you guys tomorrow. But yeah, it's been a bit of a bumpy ride, hasn't it? I'm not going to say it's outright terrible like some people would, but out of the 7 new series so far, it is the weakest, and it seems like we're getting weaker. All of a sudden, after Series 5, we've been getting... Well, actually, after Series 4, because that's my favourite series of the new series. So it seems to be getting weaker as opposed to getting better, which... Series 2 was a step down from Series 1, but Series 3 was better than that, and then Series 4, so it seems like we were going better and better throughout the Tennant years, and then we started to go the other way with the Smith years. Maybe it'll change with Capaldi, not with Series 9, but maybe Series 8 will be better? Maybe? Or unless it just gets worse and worse until we get to Series 9, where it is the all-time low with that finale. And then Series 10 is the saviour. And then it gets a bit weaker again with 11, and then a slight bit better with 12. Hopefully Series 13 will be a strong series when it comes out. Filming of that series will be beginning soon. In fact, I think it's already started, actually. Possibly. That's it from Doctor Who Series 7. Great finale. So tune in next time for the ranking of Doctor Who Series 7, aka Season 33. And then, it's time for the 50th anniversary special. The Day of the Doctor. Yes! I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. And on the... Oh, wrong Doctor. Oh, he's in the anniversary special. Who cares? Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel.